This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm whisper shouting at you in excitement because there, for the very first time on Safari Live, is the new additions. The new additions to the Safari Live Club, I was going to say. No, to the Sausage Tree Pride. I'm so overwhelmed with excitement. My name is James Henry, and it's a joy to have you with us here from the Masai Mara. What we have there are the 3 brand new cubs of the Sausage Tree Pride. Isn't that very special indeed? Now, I'm not going to get into any of the detail of what's going on here, because what we're going to do is go to what we call an unscheduled broadcast so that we can bring as many people in the universe on board as we enjoy this magnificent sighting of the new cubs. I'm now going to shut up. Sorry, well, they're not quite ready for the unscheduled, everybody. Anyway, I'll tell you that you must ask your questions. Of course, send them to the hashtag safariLIVE on Twitter. Otherwise, you can use the YouTube chat stream. I'm sure that all of you are as overjoyed as I am to be introduced to these youngsters. They were found early this morning with the other 3 cubs, who we have yet to see. I think they're around here. And we didn't manage to get down here in the morning, but we came down here now. And Peter, our superb Ascari, managed to spot them, and here we are sitting with them. Kimberly, you say so precious. They are beyond precious. As I've always said, I think that they are the cutest things in all the wilderness. And they're totally incongruous, of course, with the terror of their parents. Okay, I'm going to shut up now. Hello everybody, and welcome to the Masai Mara, where we have a tremendously special treat for you. Those are 3 tiny little cubs, probably only 2 to 3 weeks old, and they belong to the Sausage Tree Pride. My name is James Henry. Please ask us as many questions as you'd like to about these fantastic, magnificent little creatures that exist here in the wilderness that is, well, very harsh sometimes, utterly adorable at other times, and nothing in the wilderness personifies that like lions. They are utterly adorable, completely vulnerable at this age, and by the same measure, utterly terrifying as adults, totally dominating the plains here of the Masai Mara. Now, let's get into the nuts and bolts of what's going on here. 3 cubs. Don't know if they're male or female yet. They are 2 to 3 weeks old, we think. We're pretty sure they're around that age. And they are the offspring of a lioness in the Sausage Tree Pride called Miti. Well, that's what we've called her. And she's known as that because she climbs trees. They all climb trees, but she seems to like it more than most. Their father is one of the Aldonyo Payak males. Now, I'm told the rest of the pride wandered off towards the south earlier this morning, possibly to go hunting. We've had no sight of them. We haven't gone looking very hard, I must confess, because once we saw these things, we decided to stay right here. Natalie, lion cubs spend a lot of time alone while their mother is off hunting. These ones, of course, are too young to have been introduced to the pride. I say that, I suspect the rest of the pride has probably met them, but because the rest of the pride, let me say that again. So, Natalie, they're on their own because their mother's not here with them. She's not here with them because she'll probably be off hunting. Now, normally they're introduced to the pride between 4 and 6 weeks. They are, however, denning in the middle of the Sausage Tree Pride territory, so I'm almost certain that the rest of the pride has met these little cubs, but they won't start moving with the pride until they're at least 6 weeks old. So for now, they're pretty much immobile. They'll lurk there in that grass. They'll go into the little thicket to the right of them if they feel threatened or unsafe. They did that when we arrived, and then they came out slowly in order to investigate us. So Natalie, that's a great question. Now, I think they're probably a little bit hungry. I suspect quite strongly that they'd like their mother to arrive fairly soon to feed them. Now, whether or not she will, I suppose, is going to be a waiting game. Perhaps as the sun sets here in the Masai Mara, Miti will return to feed her babies. It's the most gorgeous afternoon all around us. It's a perfect temperature. It's probably about, I'm going to say 25 degrees Celsius, 75 degrees Fahrenheit. There are starlings calling in the fig tree behind us, and there's a gentle breeze coming from the north. It's absolutely magical to be here on a Sunday afternoon with 3 brand new little cubs, and now they're very tired. I'm sure they're hungry, but they have been moving around a bit, and as with all very young mammals, they get tired very quickly. Bone crusher queen, that's a very good question. We found them, I'd love to tell you that I found them through my incredible skills as a tracker or my incredible skills as a spotter of animals. But we did have reports of them in this area because we told somebody that the older cubs were here last night. So they came down here, spotted these little ones with the older cubs. And so then we came down this afternoon, and Peter, our ranger on the back of the car, who has much better eyes than I do, managed to spot them. And it's fantastic just to spend some time with them. I am told that the other 3 cubs are around here. This is where we saw them last night, but we haven't seen them again today. I suspect that they are now old enough and they've seen vehicles often enough for them not to be particularly concerned or curious about the arrival of a vehicle. And so, as with all lions, they sleep a huge amount, and they probably just haven't woken up despite our arrival. So they're probably in the thickets amongst the grass here. Betty, with lions, it's pretty easy to remember the little life stages of their cubs. And you do it like this, 6, 6, 6. Their eyes open at about 6 days. They're introduced to the pride at roughly 6 weeks, and they wean at roughly 6 months. Obviously, there's a lot of variation, especially with the last 2 figures, for weaning and for being introduced to the pride. But you'll find that they open their eyes round about 6 days old. So these little chaps will not have been using their peepers for very long, just yet. They will, in all likelihood, have been using them for around about 2 weeks. Now, many of you wondering, are they at risk? And the answer is absolutely they're at risk. They are one of the most vulnerable creatures in the wilderness. It's one of the reasons 1 in 10, roughly, makes it to adulthood. They are defenseless like they are here. They are certainly vulnerable to any marauding hyena that might come through here. A hyena will be careful, though, because they'll smell lion in amongst this area, and so they'll be very careful of coming through here. Likewise, there are leopard in this area. We know of a male and a female who use this little riverbed that we're parked along to come. They use this to hunt in. And so certainly even the leopards of this area could be a real danger to these cubs, along with strange marauding males. If a buffalo came across them, it would certainly kill them. Elephants might damage them. Big baboons that came through here would hurt them. So yes, they're extremely vulnerable. We're going to sit here, see if the mother comes back. I hope she does as the sun goes down. If you do want to join the rest of the safari, you can do so on YouTube. Just go to safariLIVE. And you can, safariLIVE on YouTube, and you can catch the rest of the show. We'll be here in the Masai Mara. There are another 3 people down at Juma, a private game reserve, and you can join us for that end of the safari as well. So we're just going to let you go as we enjoy this fantastic sighting. Keep rolling, eh? Keep rolling. Right, everybody, we're going to wait and see what happens here. Let's go back across to Jamie Patterson. Well, she's going to introduce herself to you for the first time this afternoon.
Hello, and what a spectacular start to your sunset safari. Now, my name is Jamie, and this afternoon Craig is on camera with me, and we are heading out into the wilds of Africa, not in the Masai Mara. You'll notice it looks a little different where we are, but from Juma Private Game Reserve, which is in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa. And this afternoon we are going to be searching high and low for all sorts of things. We haven't managed to be as successful as finding tiny little lion cubs. And this morning Tingana gave us the slip. In the brief switch around where some breakfast was had, he decided to get up and move. After sleeping the entire morning with Lauren and Craig, he bounced up and off he went, and he's vanished. So we've put Steve... Well, we found some tracks. I found some tracks going towards western side of Quarantine, so I've sent Steve in that direction, and I'm just looping the area where he was just to make sure that we are not mixing up his tracks with Hosanna's tracks. But really, I'm just being as thorough as possible for this afternoon's TV show. Otherwise, we had a wonderful morning. If you missed the sunrise safari, I had a great time. I was with wild dogs for nearly 2 hours, which, as most of you know, is quite an extended period of time for a wild dog sighting, because they tend to move very quickly, they tend to disappear, and then you really struggle to keep up with them. So it was really quite a special thing to spend that long with the Hamilton's pack. I enjoyed it immensely. I think they were as still as they were because of this wind. Juma is blowing an absolute gale. It's a little bit better now this afternoon. It's dropped a little bit, but it really is still incredibly blowy. And what that's done is it's also confused matters looking at the freshness of tracks, because they're just blown away. Soccer Dash Hyena Lover wants to know if I think that we will see hyenas on drive today. It is definitely possible. There's something, but it's not a hyena or a leopard. It is definitely possible that we could see hyenas. I saw a hyena this morning. It was very brief. It went running past the wild dogs, but I did see one. So, yes, it is entirely possible. Oh, there goes our pig. That was a warthog. Can you see it there, Craig? Is it still there? I cannot. The glare is so fierce I actually can't see. I think it... Yeah, there I can actually see it. In the gap of the trees there. Looks like a male warthog. Struggling to see that far. Definitely potential leopard prey. But of course a warthog can also be very, very dangerous for a leopard. Even a fully grown male leopard like Tingana. I haven't seen him on a warthog kill in an extended period of time. We did see him try. Okie dokie, we're going to continue on and see if we can catch up with Tingana and or Hosanna. Tristan has found a lovely bird for you. Let's go and see which one it is.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Rusty. hopefully you'll be able to kind of stay on this vehicle for some time. It seems as though we're going to have signal issues much like we did yesterday, which is going to be a trying afternoon, that's for sure. My name's Tristan. On camera I've got Jandre once again, and hopefully we will have a better afternoon than we did yesterday from a number of points of view. One, because of signal, and two, because of a sighting we had yesterday that was very, very sad, which I will get into during the course of this afternoon. But actually, I suppose we should talk about it right now, given that I'm stationary, because I can't move anywhere, so I can't actually tell you about anything else. Essentially, we went to Chitwa yesterday. We went down to the dam, and we spotted a hippo that was
I'm sorry about that, everyone. It really actually is a serious story that Tristan has to tell you. But unfortunately, the gremlins have been playing havoc with Rusty, our vehicle, for the last few days. It's a long story, but unfortunately, she doesn't seem to be doing very well this afternoon. Though, while Tristan tries to sort that out, I'm sure once he's up and running, he will share the story of the hippopotamus yesterday. I don't feel that it's my place to finish off his story. Well, first of all, I wasn't there. And secondly, it was a very intense, very emotional sighting, and I feel that he has to share it with you properly. Unfortunately, it wasn't one that he was able to go live with, but to be honest, there was a great deal of intensity to that particular sighting. So I will leave that for him to continue once he manages to battle off the gremlins. Now, we're on Gari Cutline, which means we too could shortly disappear off your screens, but for now we're okay. So Emma, just shout when you need me to stop driving this way. I'm just checking to see. Hosanna last night during the rehearsal managed to lose me in a ditch. He went through the ditch, then he went past the front of our camp, and then he went down towards the dam, but he wasn't picked up on the dam cam, which makes me think that perhaps he crossed a little bit further to the north, or perhaps to the east, and he slunk past somehow. Possibly behind the dam cam itself, actually. And none of us picked up on any tracks, but this morning, because I spent the morning with the wild dogs, which is great, I didn't cover any ground at all. So I've got no updates on the Nkuhumas. It looks like they're elsewhere, because I saw some messages going around the various WhatsApp groups, asking about the composition of the pride. So I suspect that they are hopefully reunited. Awesome. Cool. So we will look for Tingana while sitting still. I'll just go back on myself. It's fine. It's no problem. No, I won't. I'll carry on, because the good news is that Steve is up and running. Apart from his peculiar game drive comms this afternoon, he seems to be able to hear what Emma's trying to say to him.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Juma Private Game Reserve. My name is indeed Steve. I'm joined on camera by Sebastian, who had a wonderful birthday yesterday. And well, we are out in the African wilderness seeing what we can find. Please, as I'm sure you've been told, send your questions. Hashtag safariLIVE, or throw them in on the YouTube chat stream. Let us know what you'd like to see this afternoon. We obviously are trying to find some of our characters. And well, who knows who we're going to find. We're just going to cover the whole property in search of Tingana. I think Jamie's putting some effort in to see if she can find him. He was left around Gallagher Pan this morning. Lauren did try to follow up after breakfast to see if she could get him, but he had moved. Of course, it was a very nice overcast morning. Nice and chilly, actually. So we are now in the center, just trying to see if we can find any tracks. So far, it's been a very quiet afternoon, but nonetheless, it is going to be a wonderful day. This is a very popular area right here for Hosanna. We're going to see if we can find him. That would be really nice. I'm sure we do have a TV show this evening, and he always pops out just in time. But in the meantime, let's go over to Tristan, who's got a feathered friend.
Well, we're going to try this all again and see if Rusty is going to behave itself and not give us so much trouble. And we're going to do that with a beautiful little bird that is sitting so elegantly on the edge of Twin Dams. It is called a barn swallow. And there's barn swallows all over the place here. And they're landing on this brush-packed material that's on the dam wall that's trying to stop erosion on the dam wall itself. And from here, they can fly out and be able to hawk all kinds of different little insects, as well as be able to drink. And they'll fly down and kind of scoop water from the dam itself. And so this is a really nice place to kind of see them. Most of these ones that we're seeing here are non-breeding adults. Funny enough, it's quite interesting because they'll show a much brighter coloration when they're breeding, get a much more chestnut kind of color on the head area, and blues. And a lot of these are quite pale at the moment. So I would imagine it's either youngsters or non-breeding individuals. And that particular one, there's a youngster within the group at the moment. But very, very cool to see. I'm trying to actually see them nicely. It's so much glare on the little screen that I've got that I can't actually see too well. Maybe that's not even a barn swallow. Difficult. Does it have white on it, Jandre? It does have white. Now, I believe a lot of you are saying these are beautiful. They are very, very pretty little birds, and generally we don't really get clear views of them because of how fast they fly. It's very difficult for us to kind of get them on camera, and they're normally darting around far from us, but because of the sort of proximity of the brush packing to the water, they're actually sitting really close, and so we can get these really nice views. And you can see how they're struggling with the wind this afternoon. It is howling gale that is blowing at the moment, which is making it very difficult if you're a bird trying to balance on a branch like that. So their feathers are designed to kind of catch wind, and so these guys are being blown about all over the place at the moment, which is nice when they are flying, but when they perch, not so nice. Now, Lily, who's 8 years old, wants to know what gives the bird its shiny feathers. I think that's what I got from all of that, all the gloss on this particular bird. You probably find that there's a couple of things there. So one is feathers themselves contain certain pigments within them, so types of cells that are able to reflect light a little bit. The other thing is that they'll have preening oils that will come out of their skin that will often be brushed through that feathery kind of area, and that gives them a little bit more of a glisten. But most of it is to do with pigments, and so the way that the light is hitting those cells and coming back at our eye is causing that iridescent kind of gloss to come back at us. It's the same as things like starlings. That kind of shiny appearance that they've got is often due to that reason. Very cute little birds. But just now I was telling you about our sad story, and so I'm going to use this opportunity, given that we've got signal, which is going to be a rarity at this rate. So we went to Chitwa Dam, Jandre and I, and we were sulking at our signal issues, and we hadn't found our leopard that we were looking for, and we were generally having a rather sort of morbid day, and it just got worse because basically what happened is we went to Chitwa Dam, and Jandre pointed out quite excitedly, look, there's a little baby hippo that's sleeping on the bank. And so we thought, oh, that's very cute, and we kind of looked at it for a bit and then drove on and didn't really pay too much attention because we were trying to see if we could find signal. And we got to the little baby hippo, and then kind of some part of me, I don't know why, just didn't think something was right there. And so we drove along, and then we stopped. And I said to Jandre, no, I need to have one more look. And so we went and looked with binos, and we kind of saw this little hippo was sitting there, and there was others that were nudging it. And this poor hippo was not moving. And I said to Jandre, something's desperately wrong here. So we went back, and we went to go and have a look at what happened. And it was, what then transpired was probably one of the most roughest and hardest things that I've watched in a long time. Essentially, this poor little baby hippo got violently attacked by another hippo, and it was picked up and thrown around all over the place. The mother tried to defend it. There were crocodiles that came in, and it was really quite something to kind of watch this whole process take place. And the poor little baby got kind of really badly injured, and its legs got broken, and it was a really horrible thing to see. So I was quite glad that we didn't have it live and that we had signal issues at that time. So it put a really big dampener on our afternoon yesterday. Eventually the little baby did succumb to its injuries and just disappeared under the surface of the water, and we didn't see it again. But I think the crocs must have got it at that stage. But it was, like I say, one of the more kind of depressing things that I have watched in nature. Unfortunately, it is part of nature, and there's not really much you can do about it. But watching that little baby being picked up by that male and being shaken and run around with it was really quite traumatic, to be honest. Miss Adam, you said it sounds quite terrible and it was really not very pleasant. Well, no, it was horrible to watch. It was not very nice at all. But you know, the one good thing about the whole thing was that as it kind of got attacked, and you could see it was suffering, and then eventually it just went underwater. And I think maybe a croc got it and just pulled it underneath, and that was the end of it. So it didn't suffer for hours and hours, although when we first got there it was already injured, so who knows how long it had been going for. But shame, that poor little baby was trying to fight with all its life to kind of get itself back towards the bank to try and get safety on the land, but it unfortunately just couldn't get itself out with its legs damaged. It kind of got to the edge of the water and was trying to pull itself, but it just couldn't. It was like I say, one of the most heart-wrenching, horrible kind of things that we've watched. So Nikki, you say you're glad that wasn't live? Yes, I'm pretty sure you and many others were glad that it wasn't wasn't live at that point. We are going to head that way in case maybe the carcass is there now, and that, you know, now that it's dead, it's not so bad, and you know, various animals will feed on it. It might be interesting to watch Vlad and Boris go about a kind of feeding session. But yeah, it was a terrible thing to watch, that's for sure. And like I say, so we need something to improve our moods. Jandre and I, we owed a beautiful sighting today because we had the hard one yesterday, and so we need a good one today to just kind of balance things out once again. Well, Jandre, you got puppies this morning, and what did I get? I got cold wind here, Jandre. Don't rub it in. So many things. Simple population pressure. So basically there was a population issue, is that in Chitwa Dam it's gone from 20 odd hippos to over 60. In fact, I was told there were 63 hippos counted in the dam the other day. And so that means that there's just far too many hippos there. What was interesting about the whole thing was that it was a very young male hippo that was doing this and was bullying this poor mother and this baby. And then once all this commotion had happened, the big male hippo actually came. And he came swimming across the dam, and he went in there, and immediately all the nonsense stopped straight away, and he kind of disciplined everybody. And once he was there, it all calmed down, and the poor baby, but the damage was already done at that stage, and the baby kind of moved off to the side and was already hurt. But it's all just to do with too many hippos in too small a space, and now they're starting to fight with one another and maybe trying to bring that female back into estrus. It's a young male that's testosterone is flaring, and so he's trying his very best to kind of get that female back into estrus to be able to mate with her. That's pretty much what it is, much like lions killing their cubs, and just too many hippos in too small a space is causing it. But still very, very sad, and I was really surprised at how that young male was able to even bully that female into it, because he was about the same size as her, and I think she'd just been fighting with him all day long. She looked like she had no more strength left in her, because at times she was kind of trying to bite him and run next to him, but there was just really nothing she could do. He was just intent on grabbing that little one and hurting it, so not very pleasant at all. Right, now unfortunately I once again losing signal, so I can't really move from the spot, which is not very ideal at all. And the problem with that is that when one can't move, it makes life a little bit tricky. The other thing is that we're having terrible comms problems as well on Rusty, which means I don't even know if we're still live. Oh, you found a bird for me. Well done, Jandre. Now I can talk about it.
Just over there, they're on a termite mound, and there will be roughly the size of a pixel, I think, on your screen. But we will make our way across there and see exactly what it is that they're doing. I suspect they're just sleeping, but we'll see how many there are and then decide whether or not we're going to go with them down towards the rest, or whether we'll just sit with them for a little while. Very exciting stuff. I have no idea what happened to that hippo down at Juma. Sounds like an utterly fascinating sighting, but I'm afraid I have no idea, so I cannot comment on it. Apparently we're having technical difficulties. I don't know what those are either, but I apologize for them, whatever they are. And I do apologize for the banging noise. That is the... Sorry, I don't know what's going on. What are we talking about, Emma? I don't even know if we're live anymore. Are we with Tristan now? Oh, right, the technical difficulties were with Tristan. You are with me. Okay, good. Bit of confusion there. Managed to sort it out. Now, as far as I remember, there isn't a road that goes here, so we're just going to have to book off across the fields, which is no problem at all. It's quite fun. We'll just get past this little borrow pit / drain. Yeah, let's go this way. Kermie, I've got no idea how the new pride will react to the cubs, other than to say, probably like most lions react to new lions, they're normally quite curious. They are normally very affectionate to start with. The mother is normally fairly defensive initially, because obviously she wants them to be safe. The mother will also be quite careful about making sure that the youngsters aren't bullied by the bigger youngsters. I've seen 2 lionesses here, so I don't know if they're all here, but let's go and have a look-see. It is amazing how easy they are to spot when they pick their heads up, because the white on their fur really does reflect the light. Now, the big trick here is going to be to decide whether or not we stay with these guys and see if maybe one of them's the mother and she'll go back down to feed them, or if we go down and sit with the cubs and wait for her to go to them. I don't know what to do. We'll make that assessment once we've seen how many there are here and what they are doing. No, there are at least 2 lionesses there. I can see one just over the other edge of the termite mound. I would go a little faster if I wasn't afraid of mounting us on a rock like I did yesterday during our rehearsal. We had to get out and, extricate ourselves. Oh, and I think I can see others on the termite mound beyond. We might have the whole pride here. Are those other lions, or are they just bits of lion-coloured dirt? Can't tell. I think they're lions. Nearly there. Another 200 or so meters, 500 feet plus minus. Sorry, Jenny, your question broke up in my ear slightly there. I got Jenny. Oh. Off-roading is permitted in some parts of the Mara, Jenny, and not in others because of the amount of activity. So in this area, there's very little activity, and so we would never have thousands of vehicles driving off-road. But up where the Olololo Pride is, obviously it's right close to the main entrance gate, and you'd have far too many people driving off-road to look at the animals, and so there'd be tracks all over the place and ruts and nasty gashes in the bush, and that's basically why. So this particular area is relatively vehicle-free. We're quite close to the Tanzanian border, and that's why we're allowed to go off-road here. Naturally, these guys put themselves into a rock field. Hello. Ah, and another one up that one. Eco, this is not technically a national park. Technically, this is a conservancy, so it is paid for by donation, business, private enterprise, a little bit of government funding, that sort of thing. But it is attached to the national park, that is the Masai Mara National Reserve, which is just across the Mara River. There is one lioness. There are 2, that's not the one I spotted. There are 2 lionesses on the termite mound to the left of me, at least. We are going to do a little arc and look around here to see. Now, I don't know how many of you are good at identifying lions. I'm utterly horrendous at it. So whether or not that is Meaty the tree climber or not, I couldn't begin to tell you, I'm afraid. Certainly not at this distance anyway. And then let's look at the others, Bungay. That one is not interested in us. So remember, if you have just joined us, the Sausage Tree Pride is 5 lionesses, that's one of them. There are 2 more over there. And now there are 6 cubs. Now, the only reason I saw them from the distance that I did is that one of them popped her head up, and you can see the white fur on her throat. That's what we saw reflecting in the sunlight. And they're using these termite mounds, obviously, for vantage. I think this is the first week in about 4 weeks that we haven't seen them devouring a buffalo. And they are fast asleep, because it is really a Sunday afternoon that has that sort of feeling about it. Sleepy, pleasant, gentle Sunday afternoon. I think the final control is talking to us, Bungay, but I have got no comms. I just see the little arrow going. Oh, I think that was me sitting on my own radio. That's what it was. There we go. Alrighty, let's go across to Jamie. She is searching for leopards. I'm going to look around here and see where the rest are.
Radio? Searching for anything, actually, to be honest. That's the unfortunate reality that as a guide, you know that on a windy day, you're going to struggle. And not really in terms of things like necessarily lion sighting. Obviously, this morning we had a leopard sighting and a wild dog sighting. But just generally, oh, sorry, Craig. There's some bad driving there. Just generally, you're going to struggle to find anything, even in the general game area. Just because they are so nervous, everything hides away. There is a reason why a lot of people get, I've often spoken about this, why a lot of people get irritable or anxious or jumpy in the rain, not in the rain, in the wind. Some people really struggle to tolerate it. I'm one of those people. I get very short-tempered in windy conditions. If it blows and blows and blows for days at a time, I find it affects my psyche slightly. And I think that's also part of living out here and being very closely connected to the weather or exposed to the weather. But animals really don't like it. It's just basically that simple. So we've done a whole loop around Gallagher Pan and up all the way down Gallagher Shortcut. And during that time, a fly bit me on the ankle, and I'm very cross. It was very itchy. Cal6 wants to know if there have been any sightings of hukumuri. No. Yes. No. Not on Juma. I've got it, Steve. Don't you worry. I'm in there. Thanks, Orbs. I'm on my way. Okay, we got good news. Aubrey's found Tingana. Do you want to know the funny news? He's in exactly the same place as he was. Oh dear, Lauren. He must have just disappeared down into some shade or something. Oh dear. Okay, well, it also serves me right. I should have gone and looked properly. I didn't. Okay, well, that's good. I'm nearly there. I'm basically nearly there. Phew. Okay. Pressure's off a little bit. Phew. Okay. Well, that is greatly comforting and very unusual for Tingana. I must say I'm very, very surprised that he is in the same place. I really am. In this sort of weather, Tingana likes to move. But it's fine. He can hold off until 6:30. Cheek Cheek says, well spotted. Aha, Cheek Cheek, I see what you did there. It is definitely a very popular safariLIVE joke about the well-spotted leopards. So well done, bravo, cheek. Indeed, I still haven't spotted him yet. We've got to just get around Galago Pan and then we'll be there. Ah, that is hilarious. It really is. Okay. Under the arch. Linda says blame it on the wind. I do. Okay, so then what we need from you guys, I do blame it on the wind, is if you could please keep a very close eye on the dam cam. Obviously don't stop watching safariLIVE, because I would be a very poor presenter indeed if I told you all to stop watching the show so you could go watch the dam cam. But if you could watch the dam cam at the same time and keep a very close eye out for Hosanna, because I've got a sneaky suspicion he's very close around there. Perhaps behind the dam wall, somewhere that side. So if we can keep an eye out for him, that'd be awesome. Okay, now we just gotta hope Steve has some luck. Okay, I'm nearly at our leopard. It might take me some shuffling around to get us a nice view. So while we do that, let us bounce you back across to James and the Mara, who is still with his lions. Let's see what they're up to.
No, they haven't moved. We've come around and looked about the place here. Lots of rocks we found. We also found that there are 3 lionesses. That is all. There are no further. And so where are the other 2? I've got this horrible sinking feeling that the mother's gone back to the cubs already and we've managed to miss her. I could be entirely wrong. They could have gone hunting somewhere else and be lying in the long grass. But that's the sort of conundrum I'm constantly faced with. Do I go back to the cubs or do I stay here? What do we do? Bungay said, why don't you ask the viewers? So I suppose I can ask you, can't I? Would you like me to stay here or try the cubs again? I will tell you the cubs have disappeared into the thick grass. And I also need to bear in mind, of course, that we have a television show to deliver later today. And, well, cubs in thick grass versus flat cats might be my choice. It's all very tough, everyone. Yes, I'm not surprised, April, that you say cubs. Bungay predicted that much as well. He said, why don't you ask the viewers? They'll tell you to go back to the cubs. And he was exactly correct. I don't blame you. I think I probably will, you know. We'll sit here for a few minutes and then we'll probably go back to the cubbies and just wait it out. I think that's our greatest chance of spectacular success. All of you saying we must go back to the cubs now. Bungay, that's your fault. Gabrielle, that depends entirely on how long you have for me to answer you why it is that this area has got no trees. You see, even this lioness is quite interested. Fascinated by the subject of why there are no trees here. The answer basically is humans and elephants. Humans and elephants are the reason that there are no trees in this area. So the story goes roughly as follows. By the time the turn of the 20th century came, so the end of the 19th century, this place was pretty full of Masai people and their cattle. It was also full of wildlife, and they kind of lived in what we'd call an uneasy harmony. Lots of people like to think of rural Africans living in harmony with nature. No human being has ever lived in complete harmony with nature because by the very act of existence and eating means that you cannot live in complete harmony with nature, but that is an entirely different discussion. So basically, let's go back to 1898 when we had the Masai living in the area. They used a lot of wood. They used wood for furnaces to smelt for iron. They used wood to build their homes. and there were also a lot of elephants in this area at the time. Then what happened, and so you probably would find that this area looked very similar to what it looks like now. Then what happened was the Italians, who decided that because all the other European powers had a colony in Africa, that they should have one too, landed in Ethiopia. Probably a mistake, possibly the most organized African state at the time. They certainly took a number of fearful beatings from the Ethiopians, or Abyssinians as they were known then, but they eventually managed to get a foothold, and they brought a whole lot of cattle into the area. Now, the cattle carried a disease known as the rinderpest. And the African animals, both domestic and wild, had absolutely no immunity to this disease. And so just about every cloven-hoofed animal down the Rift Valley, all the way from Abyssinia down to South Africa and the Kruger Park, died of the rinderpest. There were very, very few wild animals and cattle that survived the rinderpest, brought here courtesy of the Italians who wanted a colony back in 1898. I think it was 1898. Anyway, what that did was result in a total exit of the people from this area. The Masai lost all their cattle, so they disappeared up out of the place. The loss of the cattle and the thickening of the bush brought back the tsetse fly. Got very thick in this area with tsetse fly, which meant that the cattle and the people didn't come back once the rinderpest had gone, and there were very low game numbers at the time. And then what happened was, probably around about the 1930s or so, the elephants started to come back, and they started to clear out the bush a little bit. And there was also there was a ban somewhere around the mid 20th century on hunting in the area, and so the elephants were left alone to deal with the space, and that's what they did. And the elephants started to clear away the thickening bush. The tsetse fly disappeared from areas like this. It does still occur in the woodlands of the Serengeti, down in parts of the Serengeti, but in this particular area it disappeared. And that all allowed for the for the repopulating, for the growth in animal numbers, in wildlife animal numbers. And as the area was just sort of designated national park, so the cattle were never allowed back, and it has been maintained pretty much as it was since about 1970 or so. They reckon that the wildebeest and zebra numbers reached their current numbers, so they haven't changed a huge amount since the 70s. So the whole point of that story is that this is, yes, it's a wilderness, but it is very heavily influenced by man, and also by that other supreme ecosystem architect, the elephant. And also, the interesting thing about that story is that people tend to think of this great migration as being millennia old. The current one isn't. It's only about 50 years old, 40 or 50 years old, which is quite interesting in its current form. That animals migrated these plains in the dim mists of prehistory is almost certain, but the current migration in its current form is probably only 40 or 50 years old. Isn't that quite interesting? I think so. There are the lions. They're still there. All right, Tristan has managed to find himself some signal. He's had a very frustrating time of late. I hope that it manages to maintain for him.
Well, I'm sure that was very interesting. James generally does have interesting things to say, and this giraffe probably was listening intently about all of that history too, because he looks quite happy and content with life as he chews on whatever it is that he's regurgitated and eaten. Now, I say he because it is a boy that is sitting there. You can see a rather large male that is behind us at the moment. This is a very, very big giraffe, actually. He's a large individual and very relaxed, funnily enough. Most of the time, giraffe can be quite sort of shy with you. They'll typically, particularly here in the Sabi Sands, not so much in the Mara, but here in the sands, they often just kind of see you and then they move away. But this fella is really quite happy with us being here and looks completely unperturbed by anything at the moment as he chomps down, like I say, his regurgitated balls of leaves that he's eaten during the course probably of the morning, and is just slowly ruminating and having a bit of a rest. Remember that giraffe, when they do rest, this is how they do it, is they'll rest standing up a lot of the time. and their sort of sleep pattern is only probably about 20 minutes a day, and so they don't really sleep that much, but this is a time when they ruminate and their kind of resting pattern starts, and so that's all he's doing at the moment and keeping a very watchful eye on us. Now, the reason we found this guy actually is because we went past Gwen's old hyena den, and not because we were looking for hyenas, but we heard a francolin go absolutely crazy there, and so we thought maybe, just maybe, there might be a leopard somewhere in the area, and so we came and had a little bit of a look, but alas, we haven't found anything, and so we're just on that little two-track at the moment and kind of bumped into this fella over here, and you can see how he sticks up out of the bush with that long neck. Really is a very kind of elegant looking creature, is a giraffe. Notice one thing though when we're talking about their neck. I thought this would be the case. Giraffe Girl and Billy, age 6, are happy to see giraffe. Yes, I know that both of you really enjoy giraffe, so I'm glad that we've managed to find one on Juma. Of course, there's a different species to the one in the Mara. This is a southern giraffe as opposed to the Masai giraffe that you see that side, and you really do get to see a lot of giraffe in Kenya as opposed to here. It's completely different. You can't actually go a drive without seeing a giraffe in Kenya, whereas here we know that you can often do days and days and days without seeing one of these fellas. Now, I was saying his neck, you can see there's actually, when we're talking about his neck, it's long, but there's also a bit of damage to it at the moment, so it's got a little wound on it, and I'm just trying to see if it is a mange-related wound, or if it is something to do with maybe it looks very much like potentially a bit of mange that it's got on its neck. Often you'll find with giraffe, they get all kinds of different things, viruses on their necks. They can suffer from warts all over them. They can get these kind of bare abrasive patches like this. So it could be that. It could be an old wound that was opened up by something that is just healed up. It's very, very difficult to kind of say at this stage, but it looks very much like maybe a little bit of mange that developed there that he's rubbed raw. Now, Louise and Nikki, you were wondering about what that is. So it's quite common to see in giraffe, particularly big males. You often see all kinds of war wounds on their necks and all kinds of bits of sort of parasitic growths and things. It's quite common to see. Anyway, we're going to carry on. We're going to try and see if maybe we can find whatever was causing this francolin to be very upset with its life. It certainly wasn't this giraffe, but Steve has got another one of Africa's iconic big animals.
Yes, indeed. Well, they are generally regarded as being quite grumpy. We found a small group of 4 buffalo bulls that were just hanging out in a little watering wallow. We first had a look at a knobbed-billed duck, which was quite interesting, and then we heard oxpeckers. And so followed the oxpeckers, and there we have got 4 very grumpy-looking boys who are in very, very good condition. They're a bit jumpy though, because the wind is blowing. And well, we all know what happens to these animals in the wind. They get a little bit skittish. As obviously, they're always concerned about lions trying to track them down. Isn't he a magnificent specimen? Enormous boss on the top of his head. Hello, Purple, you think he's grumpy? Well, that's just what they look like. I think they're just very badly understood. Poor buffalo bulls. Basically, all they want to do is just carry on with their day, and well, most animals, well, lions love to chase them, so they just have a hard time really. And when there are big bulls like this, they're isolated from the herd and far less sort of larger numbers, much easier to catch for the lions because they can isolate them, but not an easy thing to pull down a buffalo. Big boys like this, maximum weight is up to about 2,000 pounds, probably closer to 1,600 in some cases. Very big animal for a lion to try and tackle. But you can see they haven't lost too much fur around the face. The bosses are in perfect condition. So I'm going to guess these guys are sort of towards the end of their tenure within a herd. They're not in the prime spots anymore. That first guy we looked at on the left, Seb, his horns are worn down quite a bit. Fiona, that's a great question. I think that you're in the same direction. I've never really paid attention to that. It's all about the movement of the lower jaw against the the molars in the top and the bottom, and I think it's always in the same direction. Let's have a look, shall we? It seems to be the same direction. They're hiding behind this small bush, thinking we can't see them. Busy ruminating, building up their condition. It's been a very long year. And the last rains that we had were in about April, and we did get some green vegetation from that, but in all, these buffalo are quite happy with the rain that has fallen. Now we have got some good green vegetation for them to bulk up on. And that is exactly what they are doing. Okay, well, we might move off from this buffalo. We might do a little loop around, see if we can find the lions trying to track them. But in the meantime, let's go back over to Jamie with the Duke of Juma.
I have had some luck, and I owe that luck entirely to Aubrey, who showed a bit more common sense than I did this afternoon and went and checked where Tingana was and didn't buy into the tracks that we saw earlier. So there we go. Anyone would be forgiven for not knowing he was there. I mean, really, he's underneath... Gee, leopards love weeping wattles. He's underneath a weeping wattle in a thick patch of grass. I mean, if you didn't know he was there, you could so easily miss him. So that's where he is. I'm parked here because it's the one patch of shade, but since the sun's very kindly gone behind a cloud, I can actually take you for a better view. Just give me a second. This clutch keeps... I thought it was me. I thought I forgot how to drive a few days ago and that I was just letting the clutch out too fast, but it's not. It's actually the clutch isn't doing so well. When we were talking about animals' pickup lines, I thought I'd forgotten how to drive, and I really hadn't. We'll get it fixed eventually. But if you see me suddenly jerk forward and Craig lands in the seat next to me, well, there isn't a seat next to me anymore. If he lands there, then we know. Yes, Emma was not. I was distracted by thinking up pickup lines. I felt like we weren't doing our best. We weren't living up to our potential there, which is the world's worst pickup line. Here we go. There's a kitty cat. Let me just see if someone was looking for me. I think that was actually for Steve. Give me one moment. He has been looking for Steve. Look at how flattened the grass is. He has been having the best time. Hey, my boy, you found yourself a little cavern of shade and shelter away from the wind. Tingana? That looks incredibly comfortable. It really does. It looks... you know when you read children's books, when you're a kid and you read books about people flopping down in the soft, long grass, and it always sounds so romantic. And then all of a sudden, you actually try it yourself and you find that there's a blade of grass up your nose, in your ear. You're itchy because you're having a skin reaction to it, or maybe it's just me. Grass is never as comfortable as you think it is. Or maybe some in different parts of the world you got some really nice grass. I remember as a kid with nice lawn grass, I suppose. But really, it was never quite as comfortable an experience as you expected it to be. Tingana doesn't seem to have that problem though. He really is quite content where he is. Yes, mister. Big sleepy kitty cat. When are you going to call? I have not heard you call in weeks. I know that he was calling the other morning. Sydney had him. I think it was with Craig, actually. Oh, we're looking for them. Give me 1 second, guys. Standing by, Dave. No problem, Dave. You actually need to take the first right, but it's quite far down. So there is a 2-track about halfway down the road that you must ignore but it's very clearly a 2-track, not a road. And then you take the first road to the right, and you'll go through a dip, and you should actually see me as you come up through the other side, but I'll let you know when I hear you. Obviously just giving some directions. It occurred to me as I was saying take the first road to the right that if he did that he might actually end up at the Mvubu Road hyena den, which would not be ideal. Now one needs a fearsome sense of direction out here, particularly in the Mara, but here on Juma as well. Let us hope that James is able to find his way back towards the lion cubs.
I think I've got good direction at the moment, simply because the sun is obviously to my left, so I know where I'm going. Slightly disconcerting because at this time of the year the sun sets very far southwest as opposed to west. So that is not west. West is much more over there. A bit disconcerting. Well, so we've left the lionesses on their termite mound because you told us to. And so we're now coming down towards the big fig tree. I'm taking a slightly different route back to them from the one that I took to them, simply to see if the other two aren't between here and the fig tree. But as yet, there's really not much going on in this particular area. There's a big herd of elephants off to the left. But let's just keep going. We're quite far away and into the sun. Oh, sorry, let's go across to Steve. He's got dogs.
Welcome back. Look what we found, folks. We have found the Hamilton pack of wild dogs. They're all just on the southern side of Gowrie Main right now, not far from where we were moments ago with those buffalo. And they are behaving like dogs do. If you look closely, lots of obviously the younger ones are begging. It's very hard to tell the difference there. They're all very much the same size. But I've never seen this many dogs before in my life. This is so incredible. See, all their ears are flat. Some of them are begging, trying to get some food, it would seem, from the adults. It's possible that they've maybe hunted. I can't see any carcass anywhere nearby. Super, super special to be able to spend time with wild dogs, but unfortunately they're just on the southern side. But they seem to be taking a little bit of a rest now. Who knows how long and how far they've moved. Ah, there we go. The life of a dog. Cool breeze would be very special if they did, but hopefully if they made a kill, they do it on our side of the road. That would be much, much better, wouldn't it? You probably hear some people laughing. There's a couple of vehicles in the sighting. Obviously, they're all here to see the wild dogs as well. And I can't get over the smell. They've got such a particular smell. I can't really place it. It's like a sweetness, but like a dirty sweet. And I've smelt it before when I followed them. And now when we were sitting here, there was just this lingering sort of sweaty, sweet smell coming off of them. And it's a very characteristic smell when you've smelt it once. Always recognize it. Do you know what I mean, Seb? Seb has spent a lot of time with dogs. He knows exactly what I mean. And there they are, enjoying a little bit of shade. Hopefully they come north. Wouldn't it be marvelous if we got to see them on the TV show this evening? Get them running through Juma and hunting. It would be very, very special indeed. They are regarded as crepuscular animals, diurnal animals. safariLIVE, there's a sourness to it, but it's a sweetie sour. It's very hard for me to really put my finger on that smell. I wish I could bottle it for you and send it wherever you are so you could smell what I smell. It's like a dirty sweet. That's as good as I can explain it. But they've probably been active during the day. They're probably, a pack of this size needs to hunt regularly. 18 wild dogs requires a lot of food. but formidable they are. Any animal that they come across is fair game. Has that one got a collar, Seb?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's one of the leaders probably. There's lots of research being done in South Africa with regards to cheetah and wild dog, the movements, the distributions, and it's quite incredible how far these animals are capable of moving. Constantly in the search of food, only really resting when they have puppies in a den site somewhere. Other than that, they're just moving through the landscape. Jamie says we should do a scratch and sniff book for safari. That would be a great idea, Jamie. We'd be able to get all of the wonderful smells, a leopard urine, I don't know what else right now. Elephant in musk, that would be a good one as well. Waterbuck, definitely waterbuck. Wild dog. We might leave some of the really bad smells out of there though, because there are some horrible smells that you really don't want to be sharing with anybody. Like lion poop, says Seb. Indeed, lion scat or leopard scat, not the most ideal smells in the world. If you've ever driven in some of it, you will never ever forget that smell. But we could get at least, a number of pages. Even a texture book as well, a smell and a texture, so you could feel, because I know Tristan was talking about the feel of wild dogs yesterday and what exactly they feel like, so that would be nice to be able to touch. We'd have to leave the poop section out completely, indeed, Emma. I don't think any poo is really worth being smelt. I don't think so. I suppose actually the elephant dung has got a nice sweet smell to it sometimes. The contrasting smell of elephant poo versus the elephant skin itself. It's a very nice organic sort of smell. Okay, well, we're going to stay with these dogs. Hopefully they get up and move onto our side. And in the meantime, let's go and get Jamie's thoughts on some elephant.
I am smelling absolutely nothing because unfortunately the wind is blowing the scent of the elephants away from me. But if it were blowing the scent towards me, I would be smelling the smell of dry skin and grass, the scent that I associate with elephants. I've been over the scratch and sniff book thing with many of you before. We've discussed it on the live safaris quite often. And the thing is, you've got to have the full experience. You've got to have wild aniseed, wild basil, jasmine, elephants. You're having fun there, Ellie. But you've also got to have 2-day-old in 40-degree temperatures. And then, when we're sitting next to it, we'll say to you guys, okay, turn to page 294. Made that reference before as well, for those of you feeling really sharp this afternoon. And you will smell dead buffalo, 2-day-old dead buffalo, or something nice. You'll smell the smell of Africa after the rain. That, I feel, is the most elegant solution to how we can involve your olfactory senses in this experience. We can let you listen to the sounds, usually when it's not howling with wind. We can let you watch what's going on, but we cannot include smell. It would be quite a book. There's quite a collection, There's all sorts of things one would have to include in there. Brent's feet. What else would we include? Emma says that doesn't seem relevant. Listen, it's part of the safari experience. You got to be all-encompassing. Well, the girls, no, we'll stick with the animal smells. I was going to say the perfume and stuff, but I think we can scrap that. Sunblock. You have to, at any point, you have to be able to smell the smell of sunblock as well. That's a crucial part of this whole deal. I've left Tingana, obviously. I have not left him for good. I'm going straight back there. I just saw these guys dashing across with a true elephant water walk, which is basically they're thirsty, and in a big hurry. And I know that I knew the water was just here, so I just ditched him for a little bit. He better not go anywhere. I'll be very embarrassed if he does. Oh, what you doing? You're trying to steal water out of your friend's mouth. That's not going to work very well. I'm so thrilled for Steve that he got to see the Hamilton's pack. I had such a wonderful sighting this morning, and I know that he was quite jealous. We were talking about it this morning and how excited he gets seeing wild dogs, as we all do. So I'm really, really glad that he got to see them, especially because he was helping me out search for Tingana. So I'm very happy with that. All right, I'm going to head on back to Tingana before he decides to up and off in a different direction. We'll send you back across to James, and perhaps he can tell you what he's smelling in the Masai Mara.
So here you are, your wish, our command. We are sitting with the little cubs. We're exactly the same place as we were. All three of them just snuggling together, which is what little lion cubs like to do. They like to snuggle. And play. And suckle. Apparently Jamie's wondering if I've had snuggles with the cubs. I don't believe Jamie really asked if I've had snuggles with these cubs. No, the answer is no, I haven't. That would be a silly thing to do. Oh, if I could... apparently she was talking about elephant smells, and she wants to know if I can smell anything. Not at this sighting here, no. I cannot smell anything other than the grass around me, which is delightful. I suspect you'll find that lion cubs don't smell of very much at all. I know I do bang on about this, but I think the fastidious cleanliness that the adults subject them to, or this fastidious bathing that the adults subject them to, means that they don't smell like much except lion. And I think you'll find that that's enough to deter most creatures from an area like this. They'll come in here, smell lion, and just avoid it. They won't smell lion cub. I mean, that said, I don't know what lion smells like. I know what wild dog smells like, but lion, I don't think they smell very strong at all. Alan, the only thing these things eat at the moment is mother's milk, I'm afraid. It's also one of the reasons that lion cubs are a lot more active than adult lions. Their diet is full of fatty milk, which gives them a lot more energy than the meat of their parents. This is just really very special. My last wish for this Sunday is that they continue to perform like this as we go into our TV show. Because if they just disappear into the bush and lie down, I shall be deeply disappointed with them. I suppose you might also be able to hear a couple of frogs calling. I think there's a bubbling casino going in the stream below us. I must say it's one of the great disadvantages of driving cars around the bush as opposed to walking, and that is the ability to smell and hear. Obviously we're sitting now and so we can hear everything, but the odour of a vehicle like this is fairly overpowering. So unless you're in some pretty aromatic vegetation, you can basically smell Land Rover 90% of the time. And when there are Land Rovers this old, that's not entirely a good thing. Unless a breeze blows across the car, in which case then the glorious smells of the bush come to the fore. Bungay, I'm going to disturb you and ask you to put the camera in the top of that gardenia bush there. Do you mind? Some little finch-like birds. naturally they've... Oh, no, they're still there. In the next bush, in the quarry bush. Flying around and gone. What a pity. Naturally, as soon as we decide... Oh, there we go. Yeah. Oh! It's a little waxbill. I think it's a common waxbill or something similar. Let me see. Yes, puma, as we go back to the cubs, I will try and identify that waxbill for you now. I'm 99% sure that if a human was to touch the cubs, the parents would, or the mother would definitely be able to smell it, and I think she'd be deeply put out by it, but I don't think she would reject the cub at all. So that was just a common waxbill, that's what I thought it was. Pretty sure it was. I say pretty sure because they can look fairly similar. But I'm pretty sure we had a common waxbill there. The only thing it might have been confused with is a crimson-rumped waxbill, which we don't get in South Africa. The common waxbill we do. We also get lions in South Africa, of course. Not at the moment, but we do get them there. This is the most adorable stage of lion life. I'm sure if you have a small child, the thought of handing one of those things to them as they go to sleep must be extremely appealing. Because they look so cuddly. They look like they'd just snuggle up to whatever came near them. And they will grow so fast. And they lose this teddy bear look in about 3 weeks. And I know many of you now are oohing and aahing and say this is a total cuteness overload. It is absolutely. Now you can sex them at this age. If they were to turn around and lift their little tails, you'd be able to do it. So we could be able to tell whether they are male or female. Bunga's just got a small bout of tuberculosis he's trying to get rid of. I actually think he's just eaten some nuts and that's why he's coughing. Bunga, if we were sitting at a concert of Mozart's 23rd Piano Concerto, it would be you that coughed halfway through the quiet section. I suppose you know now, everybody, that it is definitely live, because we would never have edited Bunga's cough into it. Lions are still fascinated by our presence, which is fantastic. I am, to quote Brent Leo Smith, keeping my head on a swivel to see if I can spot any of the others around here. Giraffe girl, I missed that, I'm afraid. My brain exploded when I looked again at these cute lions. Well, Pat, this is, sorry, not Cat Pat, it's just Pat, isn't it? Pat, I don't know entirely how they know, but they do know, obviously. As they get older, sorry, I've just realised I've moved my hat, which is going to sound terrible. I've left it alone now. So it is Cat, not Pat. Cat, I don't know how they know to stay. They do know to stay, though. And as they get older, they will move around a little bit more. And their mothers, you'll find, will have to go and look for them slightly. So they'll just slowly start to explore more and more as they get a bit older. But we watched last week with the older cubs when the mothers smelt something that they thought they wanted to investigate. And they did something, and it was totally impossible to see what it was that they did. But the 3 cubs turned around, walked in the opposite direction, and went flat in the grass. And the 3 lionesses carried on. They went to investigate around a termite mound. Quite possibly they thought there was a warthog there. There wasn't a warthog there. They got onto the termite mound. I think one of them made one little contact call and the cubs came back to them. So how they told the little ones to go away while they hunted, I don't know. It certainly wasn't something that I was able to pick up. They've got these dark, deep eyes at this age with a slightly navy blue tinge. Yes, giraffe girl, you'd say they're little sausages. Well, they are, aren't they? They're little chipolatas at this age. Oh, my goodness. We just have to hope that they stay here. You can see the little claws of the one there on the belly sticking out. They remind me of my nephews. Alrighty, we're going to go back to Steve and his dogs. I am not going anywhere at all.
Well, thanks, James. Unfortunately, our dogs have just gone a little bit too far from the road, and all we can see is bushes. So, unfortunately, we did have them there for a little while, but they've just moved off a little bit too far into the bush now, and they're all lying down, so we can't even see them anymore. Just trying to get another view. There we go, Seb. Happy? There we go. We managed to get two in the open. Surprisingly camouflaged, the wild dog. She's quite a battered old ear. Look at that, eh? Definitely telling a little bit of age. So I was mentioning before that they're regarded as diurnal hunters, but when it's very hot, they'll only really be active in crepuscular time, so dusk and dawn. But very efficient hunters, probably the most successful out of all the predators. When they hunt, they are always, well, generally successful. They pull down medium to large size prey, such as impala, kudu. I've never seen them go for a wildebeest. That would be quite interesting to see what they would do with a wildebeest. I think the wildebeest would turn and use its horns to defend itself. But 18 individuals would be quite something to try and fend off. You have a red-crested korhaan somewhere in the middle of the wild dogs, being a very brave bird. So we spent a lot of time last year with the Investec breakaway, and these are apparently the Hamilton clan pack. So nice to see dogs on the property. But I suppose there's nothing cuter than a leopard cub, but second place would most certainly be the new cubs of the Sausage Tree Pride.
No, especially when they're playing. Nothing cuter than cubs. Look at the little claws that have come out there. They will be sharp as needles. They don't come out when scratching brother or sister's face. Oh my goodness, this is just too wonderful. Snuggling and playing all at once. Andy, I don't think Mum would be concerned with us around the cubs if she arrived here. I think that she is familiar enough with vehicles to not see us as a threat at all. I think if we were standing around on foot trying to handheld shoot this scene, walking about the place, I think then she'd take exception very quickly. But no, I don't think she'd be upset if she found us here. I just can't wait to see if she arrives. Keep scanning the clearings either side of me. So far, no sign of any adult lioness here. So we did have the 3 back on the termite mounds there. Like I say, my ability to identify lionesses by looking at them, unless they've got half an ear missing, is really very poor. And so I don't know if the mother was one of the three that we saw. But I don't think so. Right. Tingana, I believe, has got up. He's started to move, which is excellent. I, like Tristan and Jamie, hope that he makes a soar.
We are in deep poo. Tingana's taking us into this block. I was going to actually show it to you on a map and then I forgot. I'm glad we left those ellies when we did, because he got up and moved straight away as we got back to him. So he's taking us into the drainages where I have to warn Emma, signal gets a little bit shaky. Oh no, he's going across. There ain't no way across here, guys. To the best of my knowledge, this is where we lost him with Tristan a while ago, where I tried to get there. So just to warn you, he's seen something. Hello, my boy. He's listening to something. I cannot get through this dip. I can only hope that he turns and goes back towards whatever he's listening to off to the left there. I said east, Tingana. East, not north. We're going to have a chat about this. He's very hungry. He's all skin flap and nothing else. I mean, he looks good. He looks healthy. He's nice and muscular. But he's really, really hungry. Oh, man, this is going to be incredibly difficult. Oh, he's a good kitty cat. It's really not going to help us, though, is it? Because you're just going to lie there for 2 seconds and then you're going to go down, aren't you? I'm scared to start the car to even get us a better view, because often what happens is with the movement of vehicles, it's not that the animal's disturbed or frightened in any way. It's just, obviously they listen to the noise. So then they listen and they think, oh, well, I'm awake now anyway. I might as well move. So often what happens is if someone drives past an animal or something, or moves out of a sighting, the animal gets up and moves, not away from the vehicle, just because the noise has created movement. There is something in this drainage. Look, Tingana, if you're going to kill something, it's got to be this side, eh? I don't have signal on the other side. Mrs. Anno says that mating burns calories. He didn't really do much proper mating, though, did he? I mean, he was with Tundi for that brief moment where they encountered each other. Then it looks like from the tracks, Tristan was saying that they mated again that night. Presumably a few times, but after that he was separated from her and he moved off. I don't know why. Tristan suspects that there was some sort of meeting of females in that southern section. It's basically the southern boundary of Tundi's territory, and that during all of the drama Tingana took the opportunity to escape and moved up here. So he's had 2 days of mating as far as we know. We could of course be mistaken, but we've had no evidence of him mating, and typically mating leopards don't move very far. We'll find out. I mean, if we spend a bit of time with him, let's look at where he's looking. Oh, good grief. If he kills something in there, we are in big trouble. It will be the end of our leopard for this TV show, which isn't a disaster. It's not all about the leopards. It's just nice to be able to introduce South Africa to some of our beloved characters. Eric in Montreal, he wants to know if that is a tick on his left ear. Yes, it is. At the base there, you can just see it. Oh, his ears are so tatty. Getting old, boy. Yes, that is a tick at the joint between his ear and his cheek. A big, very engorged tick, as it happens. He's listening intently. Tristan actually told me that he saw that Tingana had 2 ticks the other day in a very inappropriate place. I can't see them anymore. So fortunately it seems as though he's managed to remove them. And he said he had one on each testicle. It must have been very uncomfortable. He looks fine though. All right, everybody, cross your fingers, hold your thumbs, cross your toes if you have to. Wish us luck and that he doesn't go north. Meantime, off we go back across to Steve, who I'm sure is thinking much the same thing.
Thanks, Jamie. Tingana, hopefully he will stick around for this evening. We just had a lovely visual of a grey hornbill that caught a caterpillar and was wiping it against the branch for a very long time, and then, well, he finally swallowed it and disappeared. Just trying to see if I can see him again. Nope, he's vanished. It was really nice. I really do enjoy their caterpillars. This time of year, most of the hornbills the females are hidden away in cavities in the trees, where the male is now providing all of the food in the form of insects for them. Good afternoon. Hi, Oops. Good afternoon. Likewise. Cheers, guys. Sorry, just getting past apparently some super fans are staying at, I think it's Gallagher. They were interested in those buffalo. We've obviously left the wild dog. We couldn't see them anymore. They were just a little bit too far off the road. And we'll go back there right at the end of the show, see if maybe if they get up and come back on. That'd be nice. And in the meantime, we're going to keep checking our watering holes. Here we are at Treehouse. See if there's any tracks of Horsana materializing anywhere. Nothing as of yet. I wonder if those wild dogs know there's such a lovely little watering hole here that they can come and spend some time at. But anyway, while we keep searching, hopefully we'll find the little chief. Let's go back up to the Masai Mara with James and his adorable little cubs.
Well, all the cuteness has now gone to sleep. This is the, as I said earlier, the fashion for young mammals. They use all their energy and then they go to sleep, and that's what these chaps are doing now. Fast asleep, waiting for their mother to come back. We are, of course, thanks to you lot, everybody, in a high-risk sighting situation here, simply because if they move even slightly away from us now, they will become invisible. So if their mother comes back, she's going to have to oblige us by lying just in front of them to feed them. It would be very kind of her if she did that. And with a little foot, and you just want to go over there and hold it. And like you do with a house cat, push its little claws out and see them come out and go back in again. It's so cool. But I'm afraid not an enormous amount of activity. You can hear a red-eyed dove going in the top of the trees. Lily absolutely having a pride helps with cub survival. Without a pride, the cubs would most certainly die. And the bigger the pride is, well, the more likely they are to be able to look after these cubs and make sure that they survive. Now, we know that this pride, of course, is 5 lionesses, and they are protected or dominated by the 2 Oldonyo males. I haven't seen any other lions in this area, and so I think, you know, as far as other lions go, they're pretty safe, but I've seen baboons coming through here, hyenas, elephants, buffalo, all sorts of creatures that could pose a threat to little lion cubs. And remember, interestingly, lion cubs don't tend to climb like leopard cubs do. I mean, they can, they just tend not to. And So they don't often take that option for safety. Gorgeous sunset going on there through the back of the trees. I was just trying to sneak a look around the side of the vehicle to see if anything was coming through the clearings. Not that I can see just yet. Well, MGN, like most things, pros and cons. You say it's a good thing that they've got the high grass to hide in amongst. Yes, it is, but it does mean that they can't see. Oh. Lost my lapel mic. Pushed the mute button. Sorry about that. I pushed the mute button. MGN, what you'll find is that, yes, certainly it's easier to hide in thick grass, but it's also very difficult to see over thick grass. So if you think of the life of a warthog in this area, I don't think they like this time of year at all. I think they must truly dislike it a lot because, well, they can't see anything. Yes, they can hide, but if you can't see what you're hiding from, it's often a disadvantage. So, yes, maybe for lion cubs it's a good thing, but they cannot see anything that is coming to get them. They are perfectly positioned for us at the moment. It really is wonderful. But they're very tired now. And one of my very favourite sounds in Africa is the sound of the red-eyed dove. And I don't think that you find it at Juma.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm glad that James is enjoying the sounds of the Mara. I am still with Tingana, still in the same place. So, positive vibes. Perhaps all of your thoughts being with us are helping us out here. He's listening to something that's making its way towards us. So my hope here, and it is really a true shot in the dark, is, yes, that way. Yes, no, look, no, that's wrong. South. Tingana looks south. Galago pans right there. Everything's going to go for a drink. That's the way you want to go. My only hope is that something walks into him here. Really. Plenty of nice trees to hoist into. It's along a river system. It's a very steep river system. Actually, I can show you now. Oh, maybe I can't, because now I don't think I have any signal. If you can bear with the slight blue tinge to my... Oh, there we go. Actually, that sort of works. Don't move. So if I try, how's the glare there, Craig? Are we good? Cool, there we go. Brilliant, perfect. Okay, so those dark green lines over there, these ones here, down here, these are all river systems that are incredibly steep. And as you can see, there's multiple river systems. So there's a split, which is where we were with him. And then there's this little one here. And the is up here from Galago shortcut and down, because you can't get across this way. So you can't, once you lose him through here, that's tickets, really, unless you get very, very lucky. I happen to know the secret 2-track that runs from Galago shortcut to this drainage line. And the reason we know it so well is because remember when Karula had which was it? It was a bushbuck kill. And Hosanna and Shongile were with her. And then the wild dogs came running through, and they killed a Nyala, and then Karula went and trotted up and grabbed the remains of it and looked very proud of herself and put it in the tree next to her bushbuck. There. That's the secret way in. But to get there, I have to go all the way around. And there's a reason that we can't, even if we were able to drive down the steep banks of this drainage, the problem is that it's one large Tambuati thicket, which we cannot drive over. Debbie, he has been sawing. Debbie wants to know what the reasons are why he's not sawing or scent marking. He was sawing a couple of days ago with Sydney. Sydney heard him from Chitwa Dam. But what's confusing me is that whenever he comes into this part of his sort of western edge of Juma, which is of course his boundary with Hukumuri, I haven't heard him. And he's definitely not sawing as often. Now, I don't know why that is. I don't know if tonight perhaps might be the exception and he's going to saw beautifully for us. It could be that he's not feeling up to a fight. It could be that he is thin, he is hungry. I mean, he's still looking muscular, he's still a big boy, but perhaps he isn't feeling up to a battle. I'm not sure. Maybe he's getting old. It was around about this point that Mvula started to retire to the north. He still made the odd appearance on Juma, but that was about 4 years ago now, when Tingana took over from the west. I don't know how much sawing he's doing in Buffelshoek, but he's been largely silent here, and that's worrying me. Well, the only thing I can say is that I hope that he sticks around long enough for Hosanna to grow into his new role. Right, speaking of cubs growing up, James's lion cubs apparently look as though they're going to be up to mischief shortly.
It's an interesting one that Jamie's talking about, being worried that Tingana isn't sawing. I suppose I feel kind of the same. But the problem is, the more you worry about it, what am I trying to say here? It's inevitable. He's going to stop sawing eventually. He's going to not be a territorial male leopard anymore eventually. He's going to get old and he's going to die eventually. We know that. This is inevitable. It's going to happen to all of us. And the more, every time we worry about it, the closer we are to it actually happening, because every day that passes, we are closer to the day that Tingana will go into retirement. That's also inevitable. There is no way around that. And it's interesting worrying about whether or not he's finally sawed his last. It's interesting to worry about something that is completely inevitable. And I am exactly the same. Every time I hear Tristan look at Tingana and say, "Oh, I haven't heard him call for a while," I get a little heart palpitation. It'll make me extremely sad the day that Tingana does retire, but it is entirely inevitable. And isn't it funny how, despite the fact that it is so completely inevitable, we still worry about it? I can't explain it. These three little things are nowhere close to retirement, we hope. But, of course, what isn't so inevitable is the death of youngsters, and certainly it feels a lot worse than the death of aged animals and people. And we've lost one of these already. As I said, there were 4 to start with when they were found, and there are now 3. And that also seems like I suppose it's almost more of a loss because, well, it's almost against the order of nature, except that it isn't. If you're a lion, 9 out of 10 cubs will not make it to adulthood or to independence. Quite an astonishing ratio of success to failure. Yes, absolutely, Colleen. An eagle would certainly try for a cub. Probably an owl more likely in this habitat, but absolutely an eagle would try for these cubs and successfully take one. I mentioned the other day that I'd seen a video of an owl, a spotted eagle owl, taking a white-tailed mongoose. It wasn't a white-tailed mongoose. I watched it again. It was a striped polecat, which is basically the African version of a skunk. And it's substantially smaller than a white-tailed mongoose and probably about the same mass as these little lions. These lions will smell a lot better though. Already the little instinct to clean. I'm 90% sure that has got to do with trying to remain unsmellable to prey and predator. Keep staring to the clearings behind us, but no arrival of any lioness at this stage. Sun slowly starting to set now. Yes, Emma, it does look a little bit like the cubs enjoying my stories. I don't think it is in actuality. I think it's probably just enjoying the afternoon, the lovely soft green grass it's lying in, the absence of obvious danger. Of course, to cubs like this, they're oblivious to danger until it actually hits them. I might find the sound of my voice intriguing because it's slightly unusual compared with what they've experienced for the rest of the day, which was nothing, just the natural bush sounds around them. The odd frog, Cokie Franklin, red-eyed dove. No, Safari Heart, they're not the same cubs as David has been looking at. David has been looking at the other three, the 4-month-old and the 2 5-month-olds who were around here this morning, and I suspect are still around here somewhere. It'd be nice to have them on camera as well. So no, they are not the same. David certainly was suspicious that these things were about to be born or just born as he left. So he's going to be delighted and jealous in equal measure when he returns to find that these little sausages have been born to his pride of lions. He spent a lot of time here in the last 6 to 8 weeks. And it's been a real honour coming to replace him for a little while, I must say. Tremendous to come down and spend time in this utterly magnificent area. No, child of the universe, I'm not going to tell the lions a story of being fierce and scaring human beings, because I don't want them to be scary just yet. They're innocent. We want them to remain innocent and unaware of the violence and trauma that is going to characterize their lives as adult lions. In the same way that I try and not tell my nephews about the violence and trauma that humanity has wrought upon the world, well, so I'm going to try and shield these things from that sort of thing for now. I'll tell them later, though, but maybe in a few months. Only animal in the clearing close to us is a topi, way behind. And slowly we're going to have to put on the infrared, I think, fairly soon. Not just yet, but fairly soon. We have a question from Le Chat Noir, the black cat. You want to know how much I get paid to babysit? I get paid in... Oh, look, let's just have a quick look there. It's a little lioness. That's almost certainly a little lioness. Chat Noir, I don't get paid to babysit. I get paid in the thrill of being around these little cubs. I'm 99% sure that what you're looking at there is a lioness. Well, will be a lioness. So we've got one she. She's a bit paler than the other two, I think. Maybe that's how we can identify her. Oh, they are just utterly adorable, aren't they? She is a poser, Ellie. You're absolutely right. And thankfully, all three of them are quite keen on being on camera. If they weren't, they could quite easily be in the thicket and totally invisible. Look. What an outstanding pleasure and privilege to be able to sit in an area like this. Yes, I'm at work on a Sunday, but, you know, what better place would you rather be? I mean, I think if most of you were to choose where to holiday on a Sunday, this is probably exactly where you choose to be. And so I've been sitting here for the last 2.5, 3 hours or so, enjoying a magnificent sunset, enjoying the smells and sounds of the Masai Mara and 3 of its cutest residents. I also think at Juma, if a lioness was approaching, for example, you'd probably hear it coming because of the woodland and the number of trees in the trees. The number of birds in the trees is what I meant. And they would then indicate the arrival of a lioness by alarm calling. But we don't have quite the same number of trees here, and so the birds are closer to the ground, and they don't tend to make so much noise. You know what they looked up at was a slight, very distant roll of thunder. Righty, I believe that the old Duke, worried as we are about him, is still quite hungry. Right, now we must make tea.
Definitely, the Duke of Juma is very hungry. I've lost him. And I've come in the direction that he was walking in. There's not much else I can do. And we've bumped into this daker that's directly on the path that he was taking. Now, I don't know if he's gone further deep down into the drainage line, if he even knows that this daker is here, or if there was something else that he was looking at or looking for. The little daker's up now. It's amazing how animals have a sixth sense about whether or not there's a predator around. There's just something that tells them. Daker's looking back where he was coming from. Come on, Tingana. Come on. I'm trying to look down into the drainage line itself in case he walks by without me realizing it. The fact that he's not sawing is making life very, very difficult. Or is going to make life very difficult. I don't want to move now just in case he is stalking. Oh, it's one of those debates. You saw yesterday how long Hasana took and how invisible he was. Now, if Tingana's in there, I'm not going to know about it. I don't know if he's hunting. I don't know if he's walking. I've really just left with guesswork here. And that's basically all we have. Although Tingana is capable of taking down an antelope much larger than the daker, he's not going to shy away from it. So he's hungry. Any meal is a meal. So if he has seen the daker, this is exactly what he is going to go for. If this is what he's seen. I don't see anything else. I don't see any nyala. I don't see any impala. So I'm hoping that this is what he's after. A little daker hidden down in the depths of this incredibly thick block. You'll notice I'm not paying 100% attention to you or to the daker. It's just in case he walks right past and we miss him. Oh, Tingana, you horrible kitty cat. Oh, he's got to do what he's got to do. Do we know he wouldn't be sawing if he's so close to prey? He definitely won't give it away. We've seen Tingana do some odd things. We've seen him go into what looks like full hunt mode and then all of a sudden go into a territorial saw when the hunt failed. No real clear reason that he wouldn't really be sawing if he was actively hunting. This is a gamble. I am gambling completely. I don't have really many options. I'm so far into this block now that by the time the TV show ends, I will have found my way out of it. It's a slight exaggeration, but... Oh dear. Eric says, a classic Tingana. Yep, pretty much. He loves this block. All the leopards. Karula used to love this block too. and Tingana does as well. So it's one of those things where they're not on our schedule. They don't know we have a TV show tonight. It really doesn't matter to them. So it really is just them doing their natural thing and us having to roll with the punches. So I'm not actually that stressed. There's plenty of animals on quarantine. Hasana's still MIA somewhere. I was sort of, in my wild dreams, hoping that Tingana might find Hasana for us. Hello, little Deka. Would you please walk this way? So that if Tingana... Oh... Okay, as this Deka disappears off as well, we better send you across to Steve. I hope he's having some luck on his side.
Thanks, Jamie. I hope Tingana, well, for the Deka's sake, hopefully he doesn't catch him, but for Tingana's sake, I hope he does. That would be really, really nice for Tingana, of course. Seem to have headed further south from where they were, not coming back onto Juma. So we have been investigating, trying to find any tracks, and it is very, very hard going. There are wild dog tracks all over the place, but maybe difficult to see a leopard track in amongst all of that. So we've been searching at length for the little chief. We're now going to try one effort up at Buffelshoek watering hole. See if we can get anything there. It's been an afternoon of checking the water once again, all the little pans and puddles along the way to see what we can see. A little bit bumpy on the corner here. Hold on, Seb. So I'm looking forward to seeing some screenshots of James with his lions. How amazing it is to be able to spend time with brand new cubs. It's a very, very special privilege that we have, and James seems to have been having a very nice time this afternoon. Well, on that note, talking about James, let's go all the way back up to the Masai Mara to say farewell to him and the Sausage Tree Pride cubs.
Right, well, we haven't moved. The little cubbies have moved a little bit. I can hear some alarm-calling birds around here, and I'm wondering if maybe we don't have the arrival of either the other three cubs or an adult. But I don't think that's going to happen before the end of our show, I'm afraid. So you're just going to have to make do with these delightful little things on their own. I'm quite sure you don't mind in the slightest. Yes, Shannon, mothers will abandon their cubs from time to time. It does happen. It's normally if there's starvation or a severe threat from marauding males. Remember that if a mother decides to defend her cubs to the death, for example, it doesn't make any evolutionary sense, because if she dies, obviously the cubs die. So it's not like in a human society or even in elephant society where if the mother was to defend her youngsters to the death, they'd almost certainly survive because they'd be adopted by another female. That just wouldn't happen with the lions. Yes, they could be allo-suckled if there is a suckling female within the pride, but if there's no other suckling female, they'd die. So yeah, they do defend their cubs, certainly, but not to the death. They defend them slightly more, for example, than leopards do. Leopards will be defensive of their cubs, but because they're solitary and there's absolutely no chance at all of them ever being able to look after or for their youngsters being able to look after themselves. What you find is that leopards will, unfortunately, not so much abandon their cubs, but if things get really tough, if they're threatened badly, the mother will eventually run away. And we certainly saw that horrible scene that we had of Karula losing a cub. I'm not sure how many of you have seen this, to hyenas, which we caught on camera. It was very unpleasant indeed. But Karula did not jump off the tree to go and try and save her cub from the two hyenas. She snarled and hissed and swatted at them, but she didn't go down and attack the hyenas. And that's totally in keeping and totally logical from an evolutionary point of view. And it's what made her, that kind of considered approach is what made her such a successful leopard, is what's made Tingana such a successful leopard as well. You do not survive long out here as an impulsive chance taker. Right, everybody, another week has drawn to a close. Thank you very, very much for joining us on this show. Your questions and comments, as always, hugely appreciated. Obviously, we've had a spectacular time with these little cubs, and I hope that we'll be able to bring you a lot more of them over the coming weeks. Until tomorrow morning at 0500 Central African Time, I hope that you stay safe and happy wherever you are.